Police Department either, correct?
Correct.
Completely separate agency, is that right?
Yes.
During the course of that interview, those officers informed you very specifically, Ms. McCabe, that it is a crime to lie to them, even during an interview, correct?
Yes.
Those law enforcement officers informed you that they were investigating certain circumstances attendant to John O'Keefe's death, correct?
They were very vague on what they were.
Understood.
I don't know what they were investigating.
But you did understand that it was having something to do with your involvement at 34 Fairview on January 28th, 29th, 2022.
Objection.
As a witness or otherwise?
Objection.
Sustained as to certain terminologies.
Sure. Let me see if I can rephrase that, Ms. McCabe. You were aware of the subject matter of their interview, right? They weren't interviewing about a car you bought last year, correct?
Correct.
They were interviewing you about, basically, about what you're testifying to here, correct?
When I first spoke with them, the conversation was pretty vague.
But the subject matter, vague or specific, was about this subject matter.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. They first contacted you telephonically, called you on the phone. Is that right?
Actually, they walked up to my car.
They walked up to your car?
Yes.
Okay, that was the very first introduction, correct?
Yes.
At that point, they had not identified themselves, correct?
They didn't know.
All right, and at that point, you told them that you were not Jennifer McCabe. They asked you who you were, and you said, I'm Nicole.
I thought they were like selling something, so I was like, oh no, I'm not the homeowner.
Fair enough, fair enough. However, after you said, I'm not Jennifer McCabe, you walked into the house, they then called you on the phone.
Yes,
They were
correct.
still sitting outside your house.
I don't know where they were, but they did call me.
They were close by.
I'm not aware.
Well, the call came almost immediately after you walked back in the house, correct?
I'm not sure how much time had passed.
Give me an idea. It wasn't an hour. It was
No, it was
5 or 10
soon
minutes.
after. I'm just not sure. I can't tell you where they were located. I'm sorry.
Okay. They told you that they would, at that point, they identified themselves as being law enforcement agents, correct?
When they called me, yes.
And they told you at that time that they were not with Canton Police. You knew at least they were not with Canton Police Department. They were not troopers with Massachusetts State Police, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And they told you that they would like to have an interview with you. They'd like to have a sit-down talk with you, correct?
Yes.
You told them that you would be willing to submit to an interview, but you needed about 10 minutes to get ready, correct?
Yes.
You ultimately did allow them into your home, and you did sit down for a formal interview with them, correct?
Yes, brief, but yes.
And it was during that formal interview inside the home that it was explained to you that it would be a crime for you to lie to them on any material issue, correct?
Yes.
During the course of your interview, your husband, Matt McCabe, came home. Is that right?
Yes.
As these law enforcement agents continue to question you, these law enforcement officers continue to question you at some point, you inform them that you did not feel comfortable with any further questioning and you suspended the interview, correct?
Yes.
Before leaving, however, those same law enforcement officers asked you if you had contacted anyone in those 10 minutes when you indicated, I need 10 minutes to get ready, between the time they called you and the time that they showed up and came inside your house, correct?
Yes.
You told them that you had contacted your husband, Matt McCabe,
Yes.
which is why he came home, right?
Yes.
And you told them that you had called Carrie Roberts before they interviewed you, correct? At that moment.
I'm not 100% sure, but if you have it, I'll.
Give me
It
one-
seems like something I would do, but if you have it, could show me.
Absolutely. If I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
May I approach briefly?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan? Welcome. First, I'm going to ask you, Ms. McCabe, if you recognized that as being a report of that interview, just generally, yes or no?
It appears to be, yes.
May I approach the witness stand and stand by the witness stand for a couple of questions?
Yes.
Thank you. If I can have that.
Sure.
I want to direct your attention, if I may, and for court and counsel, page 3 of 4, starting with the second to the last full paragraph, going into page 5, top full. I'm sorry, page 4, top full paragraph.
Okay.
If you could review those two paragraphs, read them to yourself, and then look up and let me know when you're finished. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McCabe.
Yes.
Did reviewing those paragraphs refresh your recollection as to whether or not, as to what you told those agents initially? I'm sorry, what you told those officers initially from that other law enforcement agency, about who you contacted in that 10-minute interval?
Yes, I told them.
And you told them that you had contacted your husband, Matt McCabe,
Yes.
and Carrie Roberts.
Correct.
I want to stick with that for just a quick second. One of the first calls you made after being contacted by these other law enforcement officers from a different agency, one of the first calls you made was to Carrie Roberts. Is that right?
She was the first one.
That's what I'm asking. One of the first two calls you made, your husband,
Right.
come home, there's law enforcement outside my door, I'm guessing is what you said, correct?
I don't remember my exact words now, but I did ask him to come home. Correct.
And
Yes.
Carrie Roberts.
Okay. Yes.
You wanted to let Ms. Roberts know that you had been contacted by certain officers from a different agency, correct?
I was curious if they had already been to her.
That was my next
Oh,
question.
yeah.
You also wanted to find out had these law enforcement officers from this different agency contacted her, correct?
Yes, because typically, if
I
you
just
enter
asked
our
yes or no.
town, she's.
Ms. McCabe, yes or no?
Oh, sorry. I was just trying to
That's
explain.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Is that why you contacted her, to find out if, in fact, they had contacted her before you? Yes or no?
Yes.
And you also wanted to find out what she told them, if she had been contacted by them, correct? That was your motive in calling her.
No.
So you just wanted to find out, had she been contacted, but
Yes.
if she had said yes, you weren't going to say, and what the hell did they say? What did they ask you?
Well, I can't say what I would have answered, what I would have asked her, but I know I was calling to see if they had been there. Yes, that
was
is
your
correct.
that was your intent.
I called to ask her if they had been there. Yes.
So that was your intent. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Your motive in calling Carrie Roberts at that moment, before your interview, was to ensure that your story would line up with her story, Ms. McCabe. Isn't that right?
No, that is not.
you wanted to find out if she had talked to these particular law enforcement officers and what she had told them so that your story could somehow align or it could inform how you responded to questions that they asked you. Isn't that true?
That's not true. We both know what happened. We don't have to have a story. There is no story. There's what happened, and that's it.
So if that's true, Ms. McCabe, you have no reason to call Carrie and ask her if she had been contacted by these law enforcement agents, because it's just the truth, correct?
We're going through this whole experience together. We call each other about everything.
There would
That's
be no
nothing
reason,
more
actually.
than that.
So
I'm
let her
sorry.
let her finish her answer. Go ahead, Ms. McCabe, you can finish that.
There's nothing more than me calling and saying, hey, did they come to your house? That's what we did when the media showed up, when Miss Reed's private investigator showed up. We just give each other the heads up, hey, somebody's coming. Because we're just like normal moms. We're not used to this.
And that's helpful in making sure that the stories she tells are consistent with the stories you tell to different law enforcement agencies, correct?
No, we are not telling stories.
So let her finish. You said no what?
I said, no, we're not telling stories. We don't have to compare.
And if in fact what we were telling you was just the truth, there'd be no reason for you to inquire about who's contacted her when, for what purpose. There'd be no reason.
There's no inquiring. It's like when you're when the ice cream truck was at the street next door and I'm saying, did the ice cream truck come? It's really that simple.
So you asked a question,
Not about an ice cream truck.
an argumentative question, and she responded in kind. Next question. Mr.
Thank you.
Jackson.
You also testified in your direct examination, staying with Ms. Roberts for just a second, about a timeline that you and Ms. Roberts put together, correct?
Yes.
That's another example of the two of you talking about your own perceptions and comparing and contrasting those perceptions and putting it down on paper, correct?
No,
Is that yes or no?
it's a no. Can I explain or no?
I'm sure Mr. Brennan will have follow-up questions. After you gave that answer to those law enforcement officers at that separate law enforcement agency, they asked you, was there anyone else that you contacted in that 10-minute period before we got a chance to talk to you? Mm-hmm. And your answer was no, correct?
Correct.
And that was a lie, correct?
It wasn't a lie, no.
Was it true? Was it
I-
the truth or a lie?
It wasn't a lie.
Okay, so it was the truth. You had not spoken to any other person between the time they contacted you telephonically and you said, I need 10 minutes, and then they came in the door. During that arc of time, you didn't talk to anybody else or contact anybody else other than Matt McCabe and Carrie Roberts. Now you're testifying that was a true statement. Yes or no, ma'am?
I can't answer that yes or no.
It's pretty binary. Had you talked, well, let me ask you this. In point of fact, you did talk to other people. You contacted others, in addition to Matt McCabe and Carrie Roberts, correct? Yes or no?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so when you said no to the answer, did you contact anyone other than Matt and Carrie? That would be, by definition, Ms. McCabe, a lie, correct?
No.
It's not a lie? Is there some shade of lie that I'm not aware of?
It's the way you're asking the question. If
Okay,
I
let
could
me ask it a different way.
if I could explain,
Let me ask it
it
a
will
different
make
way.
more sense to you.
The agents asked you, I'm going to go over this one more time, then I'm going to move on. The agents
Okay.
asked you, in fact, did you contact anyone between the time we called you and set up the interview and the 10 minutes before we walked in the door? They asked you that question, correct?
The objection sustained. Watch the choice of language.
I'm sorry. I meant the law enforcement agency. That law enforcement agency, the members of that law enforcement agency contacted you Sorry. They asked you who you had contacted between the time they first telephoned you and walked in the door 10 minutes later. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Data point number one. Data point number two, you told them Matt and Carrie, correct?
Correct.
You had actually contacted, they then asked you, did you contact anyone else other than Matt and Carrie, correct?
Correct.
And you said no. Is that correct?
At that moment, I said no, yes.
Correct. At that, or any moment.
No, at that moment, because they had just come in my house.
I asked you,
Only one person can talk at a time.
you said the word no,
She
correct?
was finishing her answer. Finish your answer.
I had said no because I was in a situation where there are two officers from a different agent had come in, were asking me questions, or they had said, can I come in and ask you questions? At first I thought they were selling something, then they identified themselves. I just dropped my kids off at school, going to be completely honest, I hadn't brushed my teeth. So I kind of made some phone
Objection, Your Honor.
calls.
This is
That's,
non-responsive.
so next question, Mr.
Thank you.
Jackson.
Ms. McCabe, after you said no, that you hadn't contacted anybody else, those two law enforcement officers from that separate agency who had told you it was a crime to lie to them, they left, correct?
Yes.
Subsequent to that, Mr. McCabe, your husband,
Objection.
Sustained.
they left you their card so you could call them if need be, correct?
Yes, they did.
And you, in fact, did call them back, correct?
Yes, I did.
Without telling me the content of the conversation you had, did you have a conversation with Mr. McCabe?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you call them back and say, I'm calling you back because my husband told me
Objection.
that I lied to you and I better clear that lie up?
So sustained. Jurors, remember I told you before that only answers to questions are evidence? Be mindful of that.
May we
Next, yes.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. You ultimately called these officers back, correct?
Yes.
And you explained to them that you had been untruthful with them, correct?
I explained that I had forgotten to mention a couple of people that I had reached out to.
You had forgotten. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
You had forgotten. You remembered Matt and you remembered Carrie, but you had forgotten the others that you had just contacted maybe 30 minutes before.
Yes.
There were 5 people that you contacted, weren't there?
I contacted Matt.
Let's go through them. I'm
Yeah.
just yes or no. You know them?
I know 4 off the top of my head.
Okay, let's go through them.
Okay.
You contacted your husband, correct?
Yes.
You contacted Carrie Roberts, correct?
Yes.
You contacted Peggy O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
Then, Ms. McCabe, you contacted the district attorney's office, correct?
My witness advocate.
The district attorney's office.
My witness advocate who works
Miss-
for the district attorney's
Thank
office.
you, Ms. McCabe.
Yes.
And you also left out that you contacted Brian Albert himself, correct?
Yes, my brother-in-law.
For some reason, your brother-in-law, who's the 30-year Boston police detective, correct?
Yes.
And on whose lawn John O'Keefe was found dead or dying,
Objection.
I'll allow that.
correct?
Yes.
For some reason, you did not want these officers to know that you had communicated specifically with Brian Albert, the homeowner, just before you talked to them, correct?
No, incorrect.
There was some reason that was important enough for you to lie about that, even though you had been admonished that it's a crime to lie about that to those officers, correct?
Incorrect. I didn't lie to them. I had forgotten who I had called.
And all of a sudden you had an epiphany right after they walked out the door?
Yes. Matt said, who have you spoken to?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it. It's out. You're not to go any further, Mr. Jackson.
Ms. McCabe, I want to draw your attention to January 28th. You had gone out drinking with your family at the Waterfall Bar and Grill, correct?
I went with my husband and met my sister, yes.
And met the other family, correct? The other family members, meaning
My niece.
Matt McCabe, Nicole, Chris, Julie, Caitlin, correct?
Yes.
And I think you mentioned Tristan was there as well.
Yes.
You were later joined by Nick and Karina Kolakithis, is that right?
Yes.
Ultimately, Brian Higgins showed up,
Yes.
and Brian Albert showed up.
Yes.
You previously indicated that Caitlin's boyfriend, Tristan, left early for whatever reason. He had errands to run or had to get to bed early for some reason, is that right?
He left before us, yes.
So he didn't stay through the shank of the evening.
Through the what?
The shank of the evening, through the course of the evening.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And ultimately, at the waterfall, John O'Keefe and Miss Reed showed up as well.
Yes.
You didn't see any tension at all between John O'Keefe and Karen that night, did you?
No, I didn't.
They appeared to be getting along,
Yeah. Yes.
sort of a normal couple having a nice evening out together.
Yes.
Neither John nor Karen Reed appeared drunk or inebriated, out of sorts.
No, I wouldn't categorize them as drunk or inebriated.
And not
But again, I don't know what the definition of drunk is.
Well, that's a fair statement. I'm
Yeah.
not asking for their BAC, but they didn't appear to be stumbling around, falling all over themselves, and sloppy drunk, correct?
No.
Out of control, nothing like that.
Nope.
Okay. You did see Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at a high top table, sort of together, through the course of that evening, correct?
We were all kind of around like a long high top table.
And John O'Keefe, and as you look at I'm going to use the perspective of the video that we've seen, that camera angle that we've seen. John O'Keefe and Miss Reed were sort of further off in the corner, closer to the bar rather than to the tables, correct? Along with the Kolakithises and those, and you, as a matter of fact.
Yes. At different times, everyone was kind of moving around. I spent the majority of the time that Karen and John were there speaking with Karen.
And that was sort of over toward the bar.
We weren't in the bar, we were at the table, so it was one side of the table and the other. It
Fair
wasn't
enough.
like far away.
Right.
Kind of, yeah.
I'm using the bar sort of as a landmark for nothing. I didn't mean you were sidled up to the bar, but just
Yeah.
sort of as a landmark. You were closer to the bar than, for instance, in the foreground, which would be the high top tables in the foreground, correct?
We were just on the other, I'm confused about this. We were just on the other side of the table.
Okay. You did see on the opposite side of that high top table, that's where Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were standing, talking, and communicating with each other. Is that right?
I believe so. I was talking to Miss Reed. I wasn't really paying attention to them.
Did you ever see those two men get physical with one another that night?
I did not that night. I did not see that.
Have you ever seen a full review in all the hours that you've sort of prepped for your testimony? Have you been shown that waterfall video from the time you got there until the time you left?
Not the full video, but I have seen a good portion of it, yes.
Okay, and you've certainly seen the portion where Brian Albert and Brian Higgins get up from the table and sort of get physical with one another, correct?
I would say more like play fighting, and Nick Kolakidis was a little bit like doing it with them as well.
Okay, so the physical part is, all I'm asking is, did they touch each other? Yes.
I guess, yeah.
And you described it as play fighting, correct?
But if we could watch the video, it might explain it better than I could.
We probably will.
Oh, okay.
But right now I'm just asking about your memory. You remember them squaring off on one another, playing, but squaring off on one another,
I
correct?
don't remember them squaring off. Like I said, I just watched the video. I don't remember it from that night, and I didn't really pay attention. It looked like foolish, like guys, just, I don't even know how to describe it.
From your perspective, having watched the video,
Mm-hmm.
it appeared that they squared off on each other and sort of took a fighting stance.
I didn't look at it that in depth, so I could not say that.
Did you see them walk up to each other and grapple with one another? Like they were punching each other.
Right.
I get that. Mm-hmm. Were they grappling with one another, like faking punches to each other?
I don't know.
Almost like sparring a little bit.
I don't honestly know.
But you did see the
I saw them together. It's blurry, and they're kind of, I don't know really what they're doing.
Okay, but they weren't standing there holding hands for
Oh, God, no. No.
They weren't on their phones, right?
They were engaging with each other playfully, grabbing at each other. I don't really,
Playfully grabbing at each other, play fighting, correct? That's my point.
I'd have to watch the video to categorize it as play fighting.
You don't have that in your head?
I didn't know it was a quick clip. I wasn't like focusing on Brian and Brian. I was just identifying that was myself in the video, and there was Miss Reed, and I believe Miss Reed actually did some play fighting to Matt.
There was, in fact, to Matt.
Yeah, I feel like she was about like this to Matt at one point. Yeah,
Okay.
in the video.
So let's talk about Brian and Brian Higgins and Brian Albert. Mm-hmm. Those two men, very large in stature, correct?
They're the guys, yeah.
Big boys. Mm-hmm. A lot bigger than me, right?
Yeah.
They took a fighting stance with each other and started grappling, playing, coming toward each other as if they were engaging in a fake physical altercation, correct?
I did not see that. I'm sorry.
Okay. You didn't even see it on the video.
I saw them on the video grabbing at each other. I didn't see stances but again, I didn't pay much attention to it.
And that's your best memory as you sit here today?
Yes.
Okay. Eventually, you, your husband, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Nicole, Caitlin, everybody went over to 34 Fairview at the end of the night,
Yes.
correct? The bar closed at, I'm guessing, midnight.
Okay.
Is that right?
I think we were wrapping up around then. I don't know what time it actually closes.
When you left Waterfall, the people that were still there included Matt, your husband, and John O'Keefe. Is that right?
Yes.
You walked out with Karina Kolakithis and Karen Reed.
Yes.
And you said to Miss Reed something along the lines of, "You're coming with me," correct?
I said, why don't you come with me?
Okay, fair enough. You were prompting her to join you for the ride over to 34 Fairview. Is that right?
Yes.
You even went outside and sort of waited in the cold. There's a video. Have you seen the video of you outside? The surveillance video of you outside in the cold?
Yes.
And you're sort of waiting there, moving from foot to foot like it's freezing out, which I'm sure it was, correct?
Yes.
In a big puffy coat of some kind, right?
So the question, was I moving foot to foot in a coat? Yes.
My question is more, did you see yourself waiting outside in the cold?
I saw myself convert. I believe I was in a conversation at that point when I was standing out there with John and Karen.
And that's when you were asking Karen to come with you?
No, I had asked Karen previously when we were at the door to come with me because I didn't know how long Matt and John were going to be in the bar because they
Right.
were in there still.
And that would have, by definition, brought Karen to 34 Fairview separate and apart from John O'Keefe if Karen had come with you. Is that
Yes.
right? Miss Reed ultimately declined your invitation and did go with John. Is that right?
John ended up coming to the door, so they just went together, yes.
And finally, you walked away and went with your husband, Matt, over to 34 Fairview in your personal vehicle, correct?
Yes.